Hello again everyone. In my last video I showed you how I made myself a new air filter due to the one for my Avanzato being effectively impossible to obtain, as it's basically the only car sold in the UK market that takes it. However, this is something of an unusual scenario. Even if you can't get your car to show up on a parts company's website, if you know what more common cars it shares parts with, you can search for those instead. Here's some examples. These are the spark plugs, which are nominally a correct fitment for my car. Even if I can't find my car in a chart for them, because a spark plug has certain standard attributes, such as the thread size, the length, the heat range and so on, I can use that to order them directly. Hilariously, when I was searching for these, they were coming up as being a fitment option for a Lamborghini Gallardo. I don't want to know how much a Lamborghini service department would charge me for a set. The oil filter is another standard off-the-shelf component bought in from third parties, and interestingly it's the exact same one as my Cappuccino takes. So while this isn't one that I had difficulty sourcing, it is useful to me that I'm able to just hold the one component and it'll cover me for either car, so I can keep a stock of them. The fuel filter, again a standard item shared with other Daihatsus. So while I can find it listed for this car, I actually got it cheaper by searching for another Daihatsu instead, even though it's the same part. It's always worth a try if you find you're getting stuff coming up at slightly funny prices when you go looking for it. Next one, brakes. I'm actually going to be doing the front brakes on the car as my next job, so I needed to get myself some discs and pads. The problem is, if you search for stuff for a Cuore, even if you're very careful to specify it's the Avanzato, there's a good chance you'll get sold stuff for an L700 car, which is completely different. This seems to be quite a common occurrence for Avanzato owners, and it happened to me too. So instead, what I've bought are the brakes for a Move, Daihatsu's miniature MPV. And as you can see, they are identical to what's fitted to the Avanzato. They've used the same brake components for both vehicles, so the same spares fit. Lastly though, be careful of being caught out by not having all the details. For instance, the Avanzato uses a somewhat unusual 4x110mm stud pattern, which makes getting a set of wheels off another car that fits something of a troublesome exercise. Now, Mazda use this fitment on some older cars, notably the very early RX-7s, and I do have a set of 13-inch alloys from one of those. Leaving aside that they're a different width and offset, normally they will still fit the car, but in reality they won't. You can't get them to seat onto the hub. The reason? Most cars use a hub-centric wheel fitting, with a specially machined spigot on the hub that mates up to a bore in the wheel, and Mazda used a smaller one than Daihatsu did. This isn't a problem with aftermarket wheels, which commonly use an extremely oversized bore, and then you fit what are called spigot rings to reduce that down to whatever the given car's fitment is, but a car manufacturer's own wheels will be designed to fit their bore on their car. I'm okay with these wheels because I knew when I bought them that I'd need to machine out the bore to suit the Daihatsu, and I was willing to take that as the cost of getting wheels in this rare stud pattern. So, how do you find this kind of information? Well, the internet is obviously a very powerful tool. Find yourself part numbers for what you have if possible, give them a search and see what comes up. Even if it's a foreign site that won't ship to you, or even if it isn't in English, it can really help you find out what else they're listing it against, and perhaps one of those vehicles will be more commonly served by your local suppliers. Speaking of local suppliers, many car parts shops still use big interchange books, which a given part manufacturer, say Gates Belts, will publish with the cross-reference information for what the stuff they make fits. These books can vary from being quite minimal to containing a huge amount of detail, so it's always worth trying to just take a part down to your local shop and ask them if they can help with it. In terms of specialist knowledge, it can really help to find people who know your specific car. Top sources for this are probably owners clubs, Facebook groups and so on. there's a very good chance that someone has already had to deal with the exact problem you have and may have either posted how they got around it and where they got the parts, or may be contactable to ask. You may also find that there are workshops that specialise in your car and modifying it and servicing them, and will be very familiar with what's needed compared to a normal garage. Dealerships may surprise you with what they can come up with, but in the case of Daihatsu, that's now something of a moot point in the UK, as they've shut up shop. There are still people who act as official agents for getting parts and so on, but this is no longer their main business. Anyway, I hope that's giving you a little insight into how you can get around finding the parts you need by making use of the oddities of interchangeability and common fitments, and perhaps giving you a couple of ideas of how to source that difficult bit for an unusual car with more success or possibly less expense. Please check in with me again next time, and like, subscribe and comment below.